Yes, this is the upgrade you've been waiting for. SpaceX just changed the entire Artemis 3 plan, and almost nobody caught it. NASA quietly confirmed that the Starship HLS lander is now built on version 3. The exact same rocket flying test launches at Starbase right now. That means this thing could survive re-entry. It could get caught by the tower. Just like a normal Starship. A moon lander, reused like a rocket booster. Here's exactly why this changes everything. Here's the situation. Artemis 3 was supposed to be the big one. The first crewed moon landing since Apollo, but NASA just confirmed Artemis 3 will not land on the moon. The landing has been pushed to Artemis 4, targeting 2028. So what is Artemis 3 now? A crewed test mission, entirely in low Earth orbit, targeted for 2027. Astronauts launch on SLS inside Orion and rendezvous with 2 separate landers, one from Blue Origin, one from SpaceX, while staying in orbit around Earth the whole time. Why would NASA take the headline mission, the moon landing, and quietly remove it? Here's the twist. This isn't a step backward. This is NASA betting on a shortcut. And the shortcut runs straight through Starbase, Texas. Picture 2 paths SpaceX could take. Path 1. Build a separate, specialized lunar lander from scratch. Different hull, different docking systems, almost no flight history behind it. Every problem discovered on that lander stays isolated to that lander. Nothing learned transfers anywhere else. Path 2. Take the version 3 Starship, the same vehicle SpaceX is currently building, testing, and flying at Starbase. Add a docking adapter and use that as the HLS Pathfinder for Artemis 3. NASA just confirmed they're going with Path 2. Every version 3 test flight happening right now directly feeds the Lunar Lander program. The hardware isn't separate anymore. It's the same family. Here's the specific detail that makes this possible. Version 3 Starship has a payload door on the side of the upper section, originally meant for deploying satellites. For this HLS Pathfinder, that payload door area becomes the docking port location. Why there and not the nose like older renders showed? Because the nose of a version 3 Starship is already packed. Landing header tanks, pressure vessels, systems the ship needs to come home safely. There's no room left at the nose for a docking adapter. The payload bay is the only place the docking interface can realistically go. That single constraint is what makes the entire plan possible. What this means for Artemis 4. We don't know yet if SpaceX will attempt that catch on this specific mission. NASA hasn't confirmed it either way. But the architecture supports it. That's the key phrase. For the first time, a piece of hardware tied to a moon mission could come back to Earth, get refurbished in a hangar, and fly again. Not scrapped. Reused. Artemis 4 is the actual landing mission, targeted for 2028. For Artemis 4 to succeed, SpaceX needs a version 3 Starship that can do everything: launch, transfer propellant in orbit, travel to the moon, land, support the crew, and launch back off the lunar surface. Normally, each one of those capabilities would need its own dedicated testing program, its own failures, its own fixes, its own timeline. But if the Artemis 3 Pathfinder is built on version 3, and version 3 is the same vehicle flying test missions at Starbase every few weeks, then every one of those test flights is quietly de-risking Artemis 4. The catches, the re-entries, the engine upgrades, the propellant handling, all of it. By the time Artemis 4 rolls around, SpaceX isn't starting from a blank page on the lander. They're starting from a vehicle that's already flown, already been caught, already been refurbished, multiple times. NASA called the Artemis 3 restructuring a risk reduction step, but from SpaceX's side, this is hardware consolidation. One vehicle family, one test program, one pathway instead of 2 separate development tracks running in parallel, each one consuming its own time, money, and risk. The question nobody's asking yet. Now flip the question around. If the Artemis 3 HLS Pathfinder really can survive re-entry and get caught, what happens to it afterward? Does it go back into the regular Starship test fleet? Does NASA want to keep it, study it, put it somewhere for engineers to crawl through? Or does SpaceX refurbish it and fly it again, this time for something completely different? Nobody has answered that yet. But the fact that the question even makes sense, the fact that a lunar lander pathfinder might have a second life as a regular test vehicle, tells you how different this approach is from anything in the history of crewed lunar programs. Apollo landers were single-use, burned on ascent, abandoned on descent, or left on the lunar surface. There was no what happens to it afterward. It simply didn't come back. This time, it might. While the Starship news was the headline, NASA also gave updates on the rest of the Artemis 3 hardware, and the picture is mostly solid. The SLS core stage is already at the Cape, with its two major segments mated together. 4 RS-25 engines, the same engine family that powered the space shuttle, are scheduled for installation this summer. Orion's crew module is being attached to its European-built service module, and it'll fly a brand new docking system for the first time on this mission. There's also a quiet but smart change to the SLS itself. Normally, the rocket's upper stage is the ICPS, the interim cryogenic propulsion stage, used to push the spacecraft toward the moon. Since Artemis 3 isn't going to the moon this time, that stage gets replaced with a simple structural placeholder. This lets NASA use up the last ICPS unit they have, save development time, and put more resources toward the next generation upper stage, a modified ULA Centaur 5, for future missions. What this mission actually looks like. So, with all of this context, what does the Artemis 3 mission profile actually look like now? It starts with Blue Origin's demo, Blue Moon lander launching first. This vehicle can sit in orbit for up to 90 days, waiting. Then the 4 astronauts launch on SLS, inside Orion, and settle into a circular orbit around Earth. They chase down the Blue Origin lander, dock with it, and spend about 2 days connected, floating through the hatch, powering up systems, and stress testing the life support hardware on board. Once that's done, Orion undocks. But the mission isn't over. A second lander, the SpaceX HLS Starship Pathfinder we've been talking about this whole video, launches separately. Orion's next target is this vehicle. The crew docks with it and testing begins again on the same mission. 2 landers, 2 dockings, 1 crew. All without ever leaving Earth orbit. About 2 weeks total, ending with a splashdown in the Pacific. This is, by NASA's own description, one of the most complex crewed missions they've ever attempted. And it's happening as a dress rehearsal, a full systems check, before anyone commits to an actual landing. None of this works without the right people in the seats. And NASA's choices here say a lot about how seriously they're treating this mission. Commanding Artemis 3 is Randy Bresnik, a Marine Corps colonel and test pilot with more than 7,000 flight hours, 2 prior space flights, and previous experience commanding the International Space Station. When something unexpected happens at orbital velocity, his voice is the one running the show. The mission pilot is Luca Parmitano, an Italian Air Force colonel and ESA astronaut, also a former ISS commander, the first Italian to hold that role. In 2013, during a spacewalk, his helmet started filling with water due to a suit malfunction. He worked through it, felt his way back to the airlock half-blind, and made it inside safely. That's evidence of how someone behaves when things go seriously wrong in space. The first mission specialist is Frank Rubio, who holds a unique double qualification, Army Black Hawk pilot and board-certified family medicine doctor. He also holds the U.S. record for the longest single spaceflight, 371 days, after a coolant leak turned what was supposed to be a 6-month mission into a full year in orbit. The second mission specialist is Andre Douglas, the only rookie on the crew. No prior spaceflights. But as a test engineer and Coast Guard Reserve commander, he brings exactly what this mission needs, a trained engineer's eyes on hardware that's never flown together before, given that both landers are first-of-their-kind vehicles. And then there's the backup, Bob Hines, with 170 days of station experience across 2 expeditions, training to step into any of the 4 roles if needed. Arguably the hardest job on the team, learn every position, fly none of them, and stay ready the entire time. Why this restructuring actually makes sense. Let's pull all of this together, because here's the real message underneath everything NASA announced this week. By delaying the actual moon landing to Artemis 4 and using Artemis 3 as a full-scale orbital test of both landers, NASA isn't admitting failure. They're doing something that sounds almost obvious once you say it out loud, testing the hardest parts of the mission before betting human lives on a landing attempt. And by basing the HLS Pathfinder on version 3 Starship, the same vehicle SpaceX is currently flying, testing, and refining at Starbase, NASA is tying the lunar lander's success directly to a program that's already producing results, week after week. Every version 3 test flight from here forward isn't just a Starship milestone anymore. It's a lunar lander milestone too. The two programs that used to run on separate tracks are now the same track. That's the upgrade. Not a new rocket. Not a new design. A restructuring that takes everything SpaceX is already building, already testing, already flying, and points all of it directly at the moon. The question now is simple. With version 3 already flying test missions, and the lunar lander now built on that same foundation, how fast can SpaceX turn flight data into landing-ready hardware before 2028 arrives? That's the part we'll be watching closest from here. Every version 3 flight is now a lunar lander milestone. That's the consolidation worth tracking. Thanks for analyzing this with me. Like, share, comment your thoughts, subscribe to the Space Brief, and tap the screen for more.